Well, hey, LTD family, we are so excited for another episode of the LTD Leadership Lean In, where our goal is to help you lead like never before in your hotels and in your homes. I am joined here with two lovely ladies. I have LaWanda and Miss Jayquin Bella. Jayquin is our general manager at the DoubleTree Columbia, and I'd love to pass the mic over to her for a second so she can introduce herself and tell you a little bit more about her journey of how she became a general manager here with us at LTD. So Jay, why don't you take a second and introduce yourself and to everybody here.
Well, hello, everybody. Thanks for the nice introduction, Sam. Hi, LaWanda.
Hey, how are you?
Nervous, so nervous.
Yeah, I told her nothing to be nervous about.
All right. I started the industry back in 2000 when I moved here in the States. I've always wanted to work in the hotel industry. But when I was in college, my mom told me that it will not be a good idea. She wanted me to become an accountant. So I was not happy about that. But then when I was able to make a decision on my own, so I started working at a hotel at the front desk and in Washington, D.C., and I worked my way up. I did join LTD back in 2010 and still going strong. I will be celebrating my 13 years anniversary in November 15th.
Wow.
Yeah. So I started with LTD as an ops complex manager for our Aloft and Element property in Arundel Mills. And while I was 7 months pregnant with my first child, our RDO promoted me to be a hotel manager at the Westin. So I was there for 5 years and I became a GM at the Sheraton DWI in 2017 and became a GM here at the DoubleTree in 2018.
Wow. 13 years. That's so hard to believe. That's so amazing. That's such a awesome journey. Hey, I can't imagine you as an accountant. I've seen you sing Whitney Houston, or at least lip sync to Whitney Houston.
Yeah.
So that just doesn't fit.
Oh my goodness.
Well, we're thankful for you taking some time today. We're really wanting to get your perspective or practical application of some of the content that we delivered in the previous Lean In episode. So if you'll remember, everybody, and if you haven't watched that previous episode, we really want to encourage you to do so because we think that there's some really great content there. But really what we're doing is we're highlighting a book called What Drives Winning Environments. And it's really centered around a conversation of the three critical components that we think, or that the authors have determined, really drives winning and successful teams and environments. And that is the idea of defining expectations, right? Offering clarity. So defining expectations and then modeling to those expectations. So modeling and then managing to those expectations. And today, our primary focus really is on the conversation of defining expectations. And so, you know, in the episode, we talked about how the role of a leader really is to create an environment where people can do their best work, where people can thrive. And they really talk about, right, defining expectations helps people do that. And so I think, you know, my first question for you really is, you know, why do you think it's essential to define expectations clearly and comprehensively with your teams? Why, you know, what is it about that process that's so critical in the entire leadership journey?
Well, the success of the hotel is really because of all the department leaders that I have, right? And I need to be able to explain our goal and tell them exactly how are we going to get there, and also ask them how do we think we can get to our goal. And really just the transparency of here are the roadblocks. What can we do? Because there's always a solution for everything, right? But really just being transparent, respecting their talent, their skills, their knowledge as a department head, and really like just letting them know here's where we at. This is the the guidelines that our corporate office is expecting from us, and here is what we're gonna do to exceed that expectation so we can meet our goal.
Yeah, I love that. I've heard it said, clear is kind. Right. So being clear with people, making sure they understand, this is what success looks like. If, what a troublesome situation when you go to work every day and you don't know if you're winning. You don't know if you're being successful because you don't even understand really what the goal is or what the objective is. So I think, defining those expectations in a very clear way so everybody's on the same page. And I really loved your comment about respecting your department heads. They are the subject matter experts. So really getting their buy-in for, okay, if this is, you as the leader cast the vision, right? So you cast the vision, but you help them sort of pour into that vision and determine, okay, this is how we can get there. So they help, sort of drive those next steps. So I love that. That's a great concept.
And plus, I also wanted to add that knowing their whys, their big whys, why are they here, and why would they want to meet the goal with us? Like why we want to exceed the goals, knowing them at that certain level, like what drives them. It's easier for me to drive that motivation so we can get to where we want to be.
That's great.
I was going to say, I love that, and just, in this conversation and having you be a part of this interview to really model this particular part of the book, I thought it only fitting because you have such a great energy there at DoubleTree and how you guys are working together in such a team effort and how well they speak of you. And so in this episode that we had, it was mentioned that leaders should strive to become one with their team members. And you already talked about that, like being able to connect with them, know what it is that drives them so you know how to motivate them. So when you're interpreting this idea, how are you able to apply it to your leadership style? Because we know everybody has different leadership styles. So how are you able to put that in your leadership style? And what are the benefits you think of building such a close connection with the team members that we bring?
So for me, I think that the first step is the selection of who I want to be surrounded with. I always want to hire somebody that I know that are going to are smarter than me, because I wanted to learn from them, and that I know that they are going to be the experts in their field. And like I said earlier, really to not just listen into what they have to say, but really respect their ideas, whatever they're bringing to the table, and really understand that not because you're the GM, you know what's best. You gotta keep an open mind. Like this is a team. It's a collaborated decision, whether it's for housekeeping, whether it's for food and beverage. We all talk about it as a team, as a hotel. And we just have that open communication.
I love that. Like I said, I just think that it's a good model. One of the things, and when Sam and I first started this, and she was telling me about the book, was it talked about, it's this picture that Sam refers to all the time. This is what it looks like now. This is what it needs to look like later, and really being clear and transparent about what your expectations are, and getting their feedback too, and knowing what it is they desire. So I like that a lot. I feel real good about that.
Yeah. Good. One of the other concepts that they talked about, right? So they, obviously in the book and then on the podcast, we alluded to a bunch of different coaches, and they really focused in on, the college coach, the coach that's honing in on collegiate teams. And one of the teams that they really highlighted was actually the University of Oregon, the Ducks. And they talked about this Mithy Lombardi, who's one of the coaches there, had created something that they referred to as the Duck ID. And it was really about how it was how do we identify as us? What makes us unique? What makes us one of us? What are some of the, those core values or tenets that make us unique and special, and really help people understand who we are when they're joining the team? I think it's important, right? People want to join something. They want to be a part of something
bigger.
And, so I'm kind of curious, what do you think is important about, obviously you're a part of the greater organization of LTD, which in and of itself is, a large team. But is there anything that you all do there with the DoubleTree that, you kind of created your own distinct team identity with certain values or principles that you help sort of pull through within the organization? I always think that values or those types of things help create certain behaviors or aligning behaviors when we offer clarity around those things. So, is there anything that you all do there especially to create a unique identity? I think from the outside in, it looks like certainly you guys have a unique identity there.
Well, what we do is like we're one unit, right? We have our own, like we're all equal. We just have all different job titles and job responsibility, but we all look out for each other. So not because, like I'm not in housekeeping or someone else, oh, I'm a front office manager, I'm not touching housekeeping. We don't do that. Like you will see Citrine in housekeeping will be at the front desk on a Sunday morning dealing with all the car break-ins, 15 cars that Sunday morning. She was dealing with the guests. And then a couple of hours later, Gene showed up and then he took over and both of them were dealing. And, those are the things that I'm very proud of. We have each other's back. When someone else is extremely busy doing their operational, like say in the kitchen, chef is busy because he's got so much banquets stuff going on. Citrine will help chef. Hey, let me put your order in for you for Ecolab for the cleaning supplies. We don't just kind of focus on our department. It's always like, who can we help and let's help each other. And it's nice. And also, I build a culture here when we respect our personal time. Because I believe like you gotta be able to like disconnect and recharge to be a better person and be more creative and happy when you come back to work. Because the last thing I want is my managers or my department head managers to feel like, oh my gosh, I got so much going on. So when someone is off, so our schedule is all posted. And like I said to them, look, I want your schedule so I know when not to call you. When you're not here, I'm not gonna call you. I respect your time with your family, with your friends. Do what you gotta do. I will only call you if there is a very it's an emergency. I have to ask you a question, but that's it. We respect our personal time so we can recharge and come back to work happy.
Yeah. That's great. And I think it would be so obvious or clear, right, to any new team member, right, that, hey, here we value team. On the sales team, we kind of use that same, we say no hotel is an island. Right. So we kind of make it clear, that we're all one team. We have one mission. We're on a single team. We're all unified and we're willing to sort of step in wherever. And it sounds like that is definitely something that's made very clear that teamwork is something that you all value. And I really love the idea of valuing people's personal time, especially in this industry. It is a 24/7, all the time, industry, and it's very easy to get into a situation, right, where maybe we are not, I don't think maliciously, but potentially taking advantage of people's time, their personal time. And I would imagine that those types of things, like you said, you use the word culture and they build a culture and a unique identity.
But I do wanted to clarify, like the department head managers, I let them know that before you go on your day off or your vacation, you need to make sure that your department is set. Okay, you need to make sure that they have all the tools that they need, they have proper staffing, so they don't give them a reason to call you. It's easier. Well, it's easy for you to say because you have X and X manager, but it's the point is you just need to make sure you set up your department. If you're going to be gone for 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, so they can still do their job without you being there. And having the empowerment, I'm big in empowerment. They gotta be able to make their own decision. They can't call me for little things. So just making them empower and teaching them and guide them how to make decisions and be comfortable and confident enough. I think that's also a huge deal for our culture here is I don't, I will never reprimand somebody for making a decision to appease the guest. They did what's best at that time. They made that decision. So it's okay as long as we know we're learning.
Yeah. That's great.
I was gonna say, Jayquin, when I listen to you speak, I can see how you're like the Coach K. People want to get behind you and want to, make sure they're good on their deliverables when it comes to your expectations. How do you measure, like what methods are you using to show that people are understanding what it is you expect? Like how do you know, okay, they understood my expectations beyond them not calling you or beyond them not calling their department heads? Because I think that's probably one of the biggest measures. But what other tools might you be using to measure how they're understanding your expectations, and what is as you learn, what are you implementing along the way to improve the continued understanding of your expectations?
So when we have successes, definitely I communicate that in front of everybody, as many people as could possibly hear. But if there are some opportunities, I do sit with them one-on-one. And so, for example, for labor, when I see the payroll register and we have a lot of overtime, I will send an email and then we'll have a meeting. I'm like, what are we doing? Why are we doing this? So there's a lot of tools to use, like, for example, the SALT score. Like, we review our SALT score every single day. That's every day. Now we also talk about it on our staff meeting every Wednesday. But with the team on our 4 p.m. huddle, we review that with everybody. Then I talk about our payroll. Obviously, when the P&L comes out, my managers will be sitting next to me, and then we will review, because a lot of times I learned so much from Citrine with housekeeping. I'm like, Citrine, why do you think our gas supply is up? And then she'll tell me, oh, remember this and this happened. So then I can actually write a better critique because she's helping me, not because I'm the GM, I know everything. She is really she's driving housekeeping. So it's really getting them involved. And again, let's go back to transparency. I don't share the entire P&L to all of my managers, obviously, but I share to them what's their part so they can understand where we are with our finances.
Gotcha. And I've heard you say it a couple of times now about transparency. And I think when we're transparent, that offers the clarification, that offers the expectation, because if I'm telling you and I'm not hiding anything, I'm fully disclosing, you have every opportunity to ask me questions for when you don't understand, when it doesn't feel clear. And so I think that's a great method and a great, tool. I love the fact that you guys talk about the scores every day, but I love more that you meet every Wednesday as a team, as a collective, and you have a time where everybody can come together. Sometimes early in the morning may not work, but 4 o'clock, that's right in the middle. And I think that's also key to why you guys do so well, just trying to find that middle ground for everybody to come together.
And for sure, and all of my department managers knows that if one of them get a write-up, a documentation, hopefully none of them will, they will not be eligible for their bonus. So that was clearly was set out there as my expectation. So don't get mad at me. Okay, I'm not trying to mess with your livelihood, but you know what's gonna happen. We have this conversation. Things does not improve. Here's what's gonna happen. So they know. I was very clear.
There's no surprises, right? No surprises.
Correct. There shouldn't be any surprises.
Shouldn't be. That's the whole point. And so I think obviously we just talked about how you're measuring all of the measuring the understanding for your team. The last section really was more about the self-reflection and self-improvement. And we sort of wrapped it up by asking leaders to sort of take a step back and ask yourself, when things come up, hey, have I defined it well? So if something were to kind of go awry, right, you're asking yourself, okay, what ownership do I have in this, right? Have I defined the expectation well? Have I managed it well? Have I modeled it well? And so I think maybe my last question really is, what are some practical things that you are doing to self-audit? You know, we talk about the constant pursuit to be better as the vision of LTD. So, you know, what are you doing to, you know, practically maybe to ensure that you are effectively defining those expectations, managing and maybe modeling to those, you know, as a leader in the hotel?
So I actually seek feedback from my managers. So I would ask them, what do you think I should, like, what do you think are my opportunities? Like when, like I will ask them questions. And I tell them, look, I'm big on zero retaliation. And that goes from our hourly employees to managers. I have an open door policy and I respect the chain of command. But if there's anybody who wants to come to me, tell me even, hey, I didn't like how you talked to me today, I promise you, I guarantee you, I live with that zero retaliation. You can tell me whatever, you can tell me how you're feeling. It's okay, because I'm open. I would love to learn more. I don't want to say but like I live with like having a growth mindset. I don't know everything, and there's a lot to learn. And I'm learning so much from my department managers. I really am. I'm learning from my hourly employees. I'm learning from everybody. So it's not, I don't know it all. It's just having that, like, not worry about your ego or pride, because you're the GM. You should be making the decision. But at the end of the day, it's really like I step back, I'm like, what would be best for the hotel decision? That's the decision that we're gonna make, not the decision that I want. But I'm not afraid to ask feedback, and they're not afraid to tell me what they have to say. Honestly, they will just like, this and this and this. I think you should have done this. I'm like, okay, you have a point.
Yeah.
Not every time. We don't meet eye to eye all the time. I tell you that. But at the end of the day, we'll work things out.
I love that, because, you know, I feel like leaders who actively seek feedback are generally able to deliver feedback in a manner in which people are more receptive to, because they know that you are someone who loves to receive feedback. When it's time for you to deliver feedback and for you to coach, they're going to go, oh, well, this is what we do here. This is how we improve. This is how we get better. So a leader who actively is seeking coaching from their team, when it's time to deliver some coaching and some guidance and some counsel, their team is going to be much more, I think, receptive to that. And yeah, no better way to improve. And it actually makes me think of in the episode, we talk a little bit about sort of like playback tape, right? So how coaches, football players, everybody who's played a sport, they know, that is a culture of feedback. A coach will always be showing, review tape. And so people get used to, this is not an attack. This is an opportunity to improve. And if you don't self-reflect, if we aren't going back and looking and reflecting and have that self-awareness, it's hard to ever grow. Yep. Because you kind of, your head's in the sand, right? So I think that is something we can all be better at. It's kind of scary sometimes, right? It can be, because we're all human and we have feelings, and we want, we don't always want to hear things that may be negative, but as long as you know that person has your best interest in mind, or the best interest of the hotel in mind. Yes. They have a heart for you, then it's easier to receive. So that's awesome.
And I think it says a lot about you as a leader that you're inspired. And I don't, there's a book that I'm reading now. It's called Trust and Inspire. It's by Mr. Covey. And that whole family is really big on about planning, about leadership and different things. And that new way of leading is trust and inspire. In order for people to trust you, you have to inspire them and trust them. And you said something back in your response a few minutes ago, that you trust their decisions. You trust that they're making the best decision they can right now for the betterment of the hotel. And we'll go back and look at it. And so that also says a lot about you as a leader, or as leaders in general, when you give people room to grow, a place to thrive, to know that that it does matter. And you cultivate and set that environment in such a beautiful way. And that's something that we all can do, set the tone so that people feel comfortable to have conversation with us, so that we can receive constructive criticism both ways, not, and that you're becoming a better leader because of them. And
Correct.
by you giving them space, you're setting them up for success to be leaders.
Correct.
Yeah. Well, that is, I think that wraps it up for most of our questions. I just kind of would love to leave it, Jayquin, with sort of an open opportunity. If there was anything, right, that you wanted to impart upon those associates or team members, family members that are watching today, what wisdom would you leave them with? If you can say anything to them, what's on your heart to deliver?
At the end of the day, I guess to me, when I talk to anybody, it's always in the back of my mind. Like when I'm speaking to someone, no matter how disappointed I am, always think when, you become a GM, you become a whatever, you just always have your foot on the ground and always think you're talking to someone's mom, you're talking to someone's daughter, you're talking to someone's dad. I think that's just the one thing that I wanted to leave it out there. Not because we get promoted from a supervisor to a manager, we will have the right to talk down to people. I think respect is really huge. Just keep in mind, you're talking to someone's father or someone's son. Just always keep that in mind and just make sure there's always a level of respect to anyone who you talk to. Doesn't matter if like the worst employee in the world, but just keep that respect always.
I love that.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love the concept of honor. Love
Mhm.
it. It's like one of my favorite things. So I couldn't have asked for anything better. All those nerves were for nothing. You did a tremendous job. You added so
Woo.
much value to each and every one of certainly to LaWanda and I, and I'm sure for everyone who watches this. We are better for it. We are better for the time spent with you. And I think that
Thank
wraps
you.
us up.
Awesome.
Absolutely. Thank you,
Okay.
Jayquin, for your yes.
Thank you, guys. Thank
Yes,
you.
thank you guys.